All right, it's some 23 minutes after 7 here on our shows and business. And it's taken a whole different twist this morning because of the big announcement by the Bank of Ghana yesterday of the, it's not a complete takeover yet, but Unibank is going into administration. Let's begin, first of all, with Dr. Ernest Addison, the governor of the central bank, making that announcement on Tuesday.
We have started to clean up the financial sector, and today we are announcing the continuation of that cleanup with the appointment of an administrator for Unibank by the Bank of Ghana. The bank has put Unibank under official administration to protect the stability of the financial sector. The official administrator will assume the responsibility of management and direct the bank in a manner that contributes to the stability of the bank and the safety of depositors' funds. Broadly, the role of the official administrator will include the following: take management control over the institution with powers that replace those of the shareholders, board of directors, and senior management. Be responsible for preserving the assets and liabilities of the bank, preparing a final resolution plan, and restructuring the bank under the oversight of the Bank of Ghana. Granted a specific time frame, that is 6 months, as prescribed by the Banks and Special Deposit Institutions Act, in which to thoroughly analyze the bank's condition and prepare a feasible rehabilitation plan. Handle all contacts with the media after the intervention period. And lastly, ensure that the bank remains open to maintain confidence in the banking system by allowing depositors access to their funds and other banking services. We are not liquidating the bank. We are saving the bank. We are just replacing the management team, so it's going to be an ongoing bank. And at the end of the day, we expect that the new team there, KPMG, if they are able to turn the bank around, we will have to ensure that it's given back to Ghanaian investors. We are not going to obviously approve a transaction which would mean handing Unibank to foreign investors.
So that's Dr. Ernest Addison. He's the governor of the Bank of Ghana. We're joined by the editor of the Finder newspaper, Elvis Darko, this morning, as we have, the conversation on it. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Elvis. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Yeah. Ah, well, good.
A lot of people have said that this is a no-nonsense governor of the Bank of Ghana. That's why we're seeing these restructuring.
Well, I just said that he's just doing his work. In every job, there are rules and regulations that must be followed. And you see, when it's about money and people's money, it is very critical to make sure that they are protected. Because people work so hard to make money. And for fear of armed robbery or anything, you want to keep it in a safer place. And you send it to the bank. And the bank is supposed, if for nothing at all, even if you don't get any interest on your money, one thing you should be guaranteed is that for your deposit that you put at the bank, if you are in need of it, you should have it. And that is what banks are supposed to do. But it's a human institution. Things may happen, either sometimes not deliberately, but that may lead to people to lose their money. We saw what happened in the case of DKM. And we know people have lost huge sums of money. So it's important that the regulator will work efficiently in the interest of the depositors, because it's our money that the banks are trading with. So if something they believe is going on that needs attention, I think that it's important that they do the right thing for the country, the people, and the financial sector in general. Because one failure can affect the entire industry. If you talk to the savings and loans companies today, a lot of them now complain that the deposit levels have dropped ever since DKM issue came up, because the people who had confidence in them that their monies can be safe with them, because of DKM, now are afraid that how safe is my money with the savings and loans company. So now a lot of people have withdrawn their money. Some don't even send money out. So they've realized that their work has been really affected by just one issue of DKM. And you can see that it's just one. but look at the entire industry of savings and loans.
Yeah.
So you can look at it that we have about over 30 banks in Ghana. If action is not taken at the appropriate time and something happens to one bank and then the news is not properly handled and then there is panic in the system, the entire financial system will have a problem. So for me, I think that we need a regulator that should do its work, irrespective of which bank is involved, whether local or international. The right thing must be done because the ultimate beneficiary is the person who has sent his money to that bank, not necessarily the government or but the individual whose deposit is lying in that bank is the one that must be protected. And you see, we have been talking about the need to pass the deposit protection bill to make sure that even in case of a bust, at least depositors are protected to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So all these measures are being taken to make sure that we can send money to the bank. And you see, a nation only develops when people's savings culture are very high. When people don't have a high savings culture, there is no money in the system for business who need money to do job to go to the banks and go and take. So people will be sitting on their money in their home. They are not trading with their money. It's not, but because they don't have the confidence in the financial system to say we want to send our money there, then there's a problem. So for us to have that confidence, they says, look, my money can be in any bank. It will be safe because the regulator will not allow my money to go down the drain. And for me, that is very critical. So once I am somebody who will always vouch for local businesses to thrive, and what has happened to Unibank is not something I am enthused about at all, because I was suspecting that situation will not get to this level, that a local bank like Unibank would have grown and become bigger. We are here and we have banks from Nigeria who have so many branches here, and we are banking with them. I am envisaging a Ghanaian bank like Unibank or other banks to also grow and become bigger and go to other countries in the sub-region and also have branches there. And that is how we build a country. You cannot build an economy that is owned by foreigners. Your economy will always have problems. Build an economy that is largely owned by your own people. When your own people own the economy can be strong. Because then they are not transferring dividends to anybody outside. But when the companies that are here are all multinationals, and the owners of the company, the shareholders, are sitting in another country, and at the end of the year, dividends are declared, and those monies that are declared dividend have to go back to those who are shareholders. You always have problems, fundamental problems with the economy. So I believe that we need to do something about situations like that. But I think that we should let the regulator do its work.
Roland, we're here talking about the ADB, whether it was a pledge or it was a takeover or something like that. And I wonder if they probably see this coming and they wanted to take cover by that kind of action. I don't know what you say, and I don't know what you say.
I think that the conspiracy theories will always be out there. And if you take a critical look at what the literature and the analysis have been, especially on the commentary, it didn't start from just 2 months ago. It's consistently been over a 24-month period. So you could say that, yes, that could be a very good guess for many of the experts who keep analyzing the industry. But we'll continue the conversation further. And so we want to bring also viewers up to speed with what the various highlights are. And very soon will be on your screens. You go find that from the Bank of Ghana. They've indicated that Unibank persistently maintained a capital adequacy ratio below 0. And especially just way negative in the regions of some 24%, making it insolvent. The bank also suffered liquidity shortfalls and consistently breached its cash reserve requirement. As a result, Unibank relied on liquidity support, over 2.2 billion Ghana cedis support from the Bank of Ghana, and that's instructive. Well, so those are some of the things. And, well, the Bank of Ghana conducted its credit administration in a manner, saying that Unibank conducted this credit administration in a manner that has jeopardized the interests of depositors, etc. And Elvis has highlighted that. So those will be.
There's also the Unibank failed to comply with a directive of the Bank of Ghana dated 26th October 2017 under Section 105 of Act 930 prohibiting the bank from granting new loans and incurring new capital expenditures. So we'll be bringing you highlights of at least the 10 pointers that the Bank of Ghana says Unibank failed in. But Elvis, you've been snooping around a lot. So let's look at how this whole thing was taken over yesterday with the announcement. I mean, did anybody see this coming? Did anybody know? Was there a hint of it somewhere?
Oh, this issue, if you remember during the campaign in 2016, Dr. Baumia keeps saying that there are some 8 banks in this country that if nothing is done immediately could collapse. And it has been part of the campaign message of the NPP. That information is as a result of a work done by the Bank of Ghana. When Ghana signed on to the IMF bailout, the IMF wanted to know the strength of the Ghanaian economy. So they asked for certain works to be done. And one of them is what we call a stress test on all banks in the country to know the liquidity levels of all the banks operating in the country. So I think out of that work, it came out that those 8 banks, really their situation is not one that has met the standards of the central bank.
Yeah.
That is where you can get the basis from. So from 2016, you have some idea what is happening. But see, this information is so very important that you can't just name the banks, because if you do, you go into what you call panic withdrawal.
So we know these 8 banks. So at least now we know 3.
The people who are supposed to know, they know. But you cannot just put names out there until the Bank of Ghana acts. It's not advisable for you to put out information. Yeah. So for the case of Unibank, ADB has been divested. It's on the stock market. There are a consortium of private banks, private capital people who have bought part of the shares of ADB. And these private institutions who have bought shares in ADB, somewhere last year had written to the Minister of Finance that they wanted out of ADB. And stories had come out to say that they want their money that they had invested in ADB, they would then go and invest the money in Unibank. So the question is, if that had been successful, will we be where we are? Probably the amount of money they may get from the sale of the shares could have saved the situation from Unibank in terms of the capital adequacy ratio. But as we speak, that transaction of them getting their money back had not taken place. So obviously, since those companies had pledged their shares to Unibank, the assumption will be that if probably they had been successful in getting their money out of ADB, they would have invested that money in Unibank and probably will not be where we are. And those consortium, they still have their money with ADB and they still want out. For whatever reason, the story appeared that they said they had taken over ADB.
Yeah.
It generated a lot of discussion and debate. And at the end of the day, it turned out that pledging of shares does not constitute a takeover. Because when you say a takeover, it has to be approved by the regulators. So the Security and Exchange Commission should have been made aware. Processes would have to be followed. Central Bank would be made aware. They have to follow process. But all these things did not happen. So the story coming out that Unibank takes over, it was a bit of a surprise, even to the regulators themselves. And I realized that after the discussions, the bank itself came out to say that really they have not taken over. But before they issued that statement, the CEO was on air and had spoken to the media that now they are the majority and all that. So I think that communication was a little problematic. And out of that, we're seeing an action from the Bank of Ghana. Then somebody will say, then what happened? Is it that because of the news that Unibank had taken over this, that we are here?
Yeah.
But if you look at the Bank of Ghana, if the information they put out here are the situation, then obviously Unibank is not really in a good state, because if you are depending on liquidity support for over 2.2 billion in a 2-year period from the central bank, and as we speak, you still have about 400 million with you, then realize that the bank really has issues with money issues, liquidity issues, because if you have the money, you have it's an issue.
Yeah.
So critically, if the figures put out the Bank of Ghana really is the situation on the ground, then we have the minimum has issues to answer. However, The other side of the argument is that probably Unibank is also owned by contractors. And these contractors, most of them are government contractors who have received contracts, use the contract documents as collateral to go to several banks in Ghana to take money to go execute the projects. They are done with the projects and they are not being paid by the government. But so if they had been paid by the government, they would have paid their debt that they owe to Unibank. So the huge debt that are on the books of Unibank, probably if we do not have this situation where government is owing contractors so much money, probably Unibank may not be having those high bad loans situations as we talk about as we speak.
As far as the NPL.
You understand? Because I even checked yesterday and I realized that even the BDCs alone, they owe Unibank about 112 million Ghana cedis as a result of the monies government owe BDCs. Because BDCs, they want the banks to take loans to import the product. And the government says they will pay the under recoveries and the forest losses at the time before we went to full deregulation. And that money, a lot of these are still with the government of Ghana. They are not being paid to the BDCs.
And that's what we classify as the legacy.
The legacy debt. So if the BDCs had been paid by the government and they had also paid Unibank, at least 112 million Ghana cedis of the debt would have been gone. So I think that this issue, as the governor has said, they think that they requested for information. Unibank didn't give them the information or they were not cooperating. They want to go in, look at the actual situation on the ground. If they can turn around the bank, they will turn it around and give it back to them, just to position the bank in the right direction. So Unibank has not collapsed. There's nothing. They are still operating. They are still a full-time bank. The only thing is that when you are put under administration, the central bank now determines who runs the bank. And in recent history, this is the first time we are hearing in Ghana that the central bank has put a bank under administration. So then we are not sure what the end could be.
Yeah, I think even the governor himself, said, in the end we could hand it over to private.
If they are able to turn
they themselves are not sure exactly what's going to happen.
If they are able to turn this around and put the bank in the right footing that they want it to go, then it means that the bank can survive and will be handed over. In other jurisdictions where these things have happened over and over, some banks go under administration and they don't survive. Others go and they survive and they're handed over back to the owners.
There are a number of things that we're doing on the back of this this morning. One will be to speak to the president of the Bankers Association, but we also have a conversation with a senior lecturer at the finance department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Lord Mensah. And we're breaking the issues down, for ordinary people such as ourselves to understand what's happening. But Roland would tell us exactly what's going to happen now.
Yeah, because now we have to go live to the World Trade Center here in Accra. And it's where we have Ebenezer Osabuti, who is right there. And the World Trade Center houses the headquarters for Unibank. And, well, good morning to you, Ebenezer Osabuti.
Good morning, Roland.
So tell us what really the atmosphere is.
Okay, I've been here for the past almost an hour ago, and I can tell you that staff of Unibank are yet to troop in. What I can say is that some customers of the bank who are coming in here to kind of transact business through the ATM, but unfortunately, they cannot use the ATM because it is said the ATM is out of use, and the instruction is that they should try other banks. Myself, earlier on, I went to the Kokomlemle branch of the bank trying to use the ATM, but I can't get access. And you could see that the security there were telling me that the ATM is not working and I should try other banks' ATM, meaning that the bank cannot be accessible for now. Even though you can enter the premise, you can do whatever you want, but you can't do any transaction as a bank and a customer at the moment.
Well, it's just about let's say 50 minutes to 8. It means that it's not right time for the bank to open, so we don't know whether the banking hall will be open. But do you see any activity of workers already trying to go on with the day's activity, open the banking hall?
Yeah, I saw some 3 of the staff over here entering into the banking hall, even though they declined speaking with me, but you could see from their faces that, they are coming to work as normal. As to what information they've been given by their superiors, I'm yet to find out. But it's as if work will go on, but the banking hall to open for transaction would not be. It will be after midday before the banking hall can be able to open for transaction. But the staff, some of them are coming in one after the other. The only issue here is some of the customers who come in here, and when the ATM is not working, you could see in their faces frustrations all over, telling you that some of them were not aware. I tried to engage one who was telling me that he couldn't see, in fact, he didn't hear any news, or he couldn't even see where this is coming from, because he can't do anything with his ATM, he can't do anything with his card, I mean.
Well, so if they take the Unibank cards to other bank ATMs, can they use them?
That's another question I'm yet to find out from any of them. I mean, yet, because for me, because the ATM is a MasterCard ATM, you are supposed to be able to transact whatever business, provided you have a MasterCard or a Unibank card. But since you are not able to use it, I'm unable to tell whether you can use that same Unibank card at a different ATM. What I have is a Visa, and I can't tell actually whether it can be able to use at any, I mean, you can use the ATM of Unibank at any other ATM, Roland.
Well, before I let you go, though, there's this incident in which we're reported of armed policemen or security people, of course, from government security outfits that were around the Kokomemle office of Unibank. Is that the same experience you're witnessing, the same scene?
The case here I can report is that there is one policeman who is fully armed and one military personnel who is also fully armed, aside the internal security of the bank, which you should expect. I mean, it's usual that you have internal security of every bank in there, but there's a policeman and then a military guy over here. At the moment, they are just here. They are here at the moment.
Well, thank you, Ebenezer Sabote. You want to ask
Ebenezer, just before you go, this is what we want you to do, because you have the Unibank card. We want you to try another bank which is not a Unibank. Let's see you try to use the card if you'll be able to withdraw some money.
You want me to use it on the Unibank ATM?
No. Is your ATM a Unibank ATM?
No, it's not
okay.
a Unibank
All right.
ATM.
Okay.
But it's a different bank, Visa.
All right.
Yeah.
Keep monitoring the situation. We will come back to you in the course of our programming this morning. That's our colleague who is monitoring. And this is the head office of Unibank, and he's reporting there's a police officer, an armed police officer, and there's a military man as well. But the bit about the ATM not working is something that Dr. Lord Mensah told me a while ago. He's a senior lecturer at the finance department of the University of Ghana Business School. He explains what is happening this morning to us as people get ready to transact business, either inside the bank or with the ATM. The fact that KPMG may hold on to regular business because they have to be sure what they're doing, what things look like before they open it up. So the beginning of our conversation would explain the circumstance surrounding this. When we come back, Elvis Dako is still here with us, and of course we'll activate the phone lines. You can send us messages, WhatsApp messages, regular text messages. Stay with us. Here's Dr. Lord Mensah. So help us to understand what has happened to Unibank now.
Well, if you take the financial space, I would say that, things are happening in the strong rooms of the various banks, but we don't see them as third parties sitting here. In the sense that Unibank, has been more or less, if I should quote the governor, has not been compliant, in terms of issues. And then disclosure is the main bane of banking, because disclosure bridges that information asymmetry. Because whatever happens in Unibank's boardroom, we don't know. Regulator says disclose. Disclosure brings the information to the third parties like us. So in the end, if you are not disclosing, it's more or less a breach of, an agreement you have with your depositors, more or less. So the regulator won't sit down for that to happen. And then also, let's take, for instance, Unibank coming into the space of banking. Within few days or few months, you could see branches all over. But I can tell you for a fact that branching is not about, profitability. It's not about ensuring holding your liquidity. So in the end, the regulator also mentioned that they are committing more funds into capital investment. A bank that is illiquid A bank that cannot meet its liquidity needs, you don't commit to capital investment. But then let's also look at what...
Please explain a bank that cannot meet its liquidity needs.
Well, it means having cash available. The regulator indicated that the bank has been on liquidity support. That means that for the past 2 years, whatever you take from your ATM has been monies that are coming from the regulator, cash that is being provided by the regulator. So day-to-day running of the bank has been a problem in the past 2 years. Let's say, 2015 he mentioned, so let's say 2 years. So in the end, you look at that, and the regulator says, I cannot, help you to sustain your liquidity needs anymore. Therefore, you need restructuring. Now, restructuring means you need, if you take Ghana, and Ghana was to be an environment where the financial space was more liquid and volatile, let me put it that way, or to the extent of you have banks that are ready to take over, then you can have Unibank having its balance sheet being assumed by another bank. Okay, therefore that bank will have control in terms of shareholdings, and then they can change management. But we don't have that situation in Ghana. That is why the regulator will relate it to an independent entity like KPMG to handle, the bank for some time, to ensure that there could be some conversion in terms of asset, to make sure that the banks, turns up to be liquid before it goes back to management. But then also I foresee management being changed over the 6 months that the regulator promised. So let's wait and see what happens in the financial space.
Okay, but this is the first time that a bank has gone into administration. To the ordinary person, we saw UT and Capital Bank being swallowed by GCB. Why didn't a similar thing happen? What's the difference here? Well,
these are two different things altogether. If the assets and liabilities have deteriorated to the extent of, the whole balance sheet wiping out, then obviously you will need a takeover. But if it turns up that you have a problem, but then it's not up to a level, let's say the illiquid part of the balance sheet, then you can say that, fine, Unibank still has some asset. But then the problem might be the conversion of those assets into more liquid, cash. And that is where the difference lies. For UT Bank and then the Capital Bank, more or less the whole balance sheet was more or less wiped out. Let me put it that way. That is why a new bank has to take over to change everything completely. But then in the end, Unibank is not of that form. Unibank is struggling, but then it's up to a certain level of their balance sheet. That is the most liquid aspect of it. That is why the central bank saw it to be prudent to ensure that they bring in new management to inject some liquidity into the bank.
Is it professional? Is it standard practice that the central bank would be supporting a bank like Unibank for 2 years, investing so much money into it?
Yes, that is the practice. You see, when you take banking, banking is part of the financial system. Without banking, which in our part of the world dominates the financial system. In other part, you can have the financial market, which is dominating. But here is the banking sector. So once the banking sector comes down, you struggle. And without the banking sector, economic activities cannot go on, because you have a deficit unit of the economy, and then you have a surplus unit. The banks serve as an arbiter. An arbiter, you have to provide assurance. More or less, funds should channel, should be channeled through that mediator, which is the banks, to the deficit unit, those who need the funds. So the regulator needs to ensure that these banks, are able to sustain themselves business-wise. So being a practice, it has been happening all this, if you look at across the globe, banks gets bailout. They receive liquidity support over years. But as you are receiving the liquidity support, you need to ensure that you convert, those support into something that, will be sustainable, by self-sustainable. So at the end of the day, I think for the 2 years, that is what the central bank don't see it to be forthcoming. And I presume that with the change in administration at the end of the central bank, I think this governor is trying to restructure the financial system very well, to put some serenity in the financial system. But then in the end, I can say that we need to be careful as a country, because the individual banks per se, sometimes, and then the regulator itself, are in bed. Let me put it that way. That is why a bank might go free, you know, struggling that way, and might go free for all these years. Look at what happened to Unibank and then Capital Bank, without, you know, the society getting, you know, a glimpse of it. So I would say that I think we should be careful how we regulate the system. But then if you have an administrator or a regulator who is more or less a no-nonsense regulator, trying to ensure that they stamp their feet and then things get well done, obviously you're going to have some banks being knocked off the space.
Let us also understand, when we say KPMG has taken over the top management, what is going to change? So this morning, as people go to work and people also get ready to go to the bank to go and do business, what will change?
Well, what is going to happen is that from this morning, people are not going to be active at their workplaces. You know, that's Unibank workers, because the new administrator would like to study, you know, the books very well before they allow, you know, workers to, take over. So workers are going to work all right, but then most of them are not going to be active as it's supposed to be, because they might need some transition, some time period, you know, for that transfer, and obviously the impact will be there. So.
Just before we wrap up, if I was saving at Unibank, what would you say to me? Do I begin to withdraw, a process of withdrawing all my money?
No, this is not a time to withdraw your money. Anytime you want to pick your money from your banking hall or from your ATM, you should be able to have it. But the reason why ATMs might go off for some time, maybe within some 24 hours, will be that because there's a new management, you know, cash inflows and outflows is one of the main, you know, activities of the bank. So the new management would like to study these structures to ensure that things are properly done before you can have access to the ATM. But for the banking hall, I think once you go there, you should be able to have your money, because those ones will be directly entered into the books.
Which bank is next?
Well, I can't predict any bank for now. Even if I know it, I can't make it public, because maybe they might have a way of solving their own problem.
But do you expect more?
Yes, we expect about 7 banks to be knocked off the space. You see, once the regulator comes in and they want to introduce a new measure or a reform, we're looking at raising the capital requirement. And in the end, if you are not well capitalized, trust me, you'll be knocked off the space. So from now to December, we're going to see waves of mergers, takeovers, and then acquisitions over the months ahead.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome, ma'am.
So that's a conversation we had a while ago. Dr. Lord Mensah saying seven banks. They're expecting 7 banks to be knocked off between now and December this year. That's a lot of work to happen in the coming days. It's almost like a movie non-stop. We've got Elvis Dako here, you know, also coming with a lot of perspective to this conversation. We're going to activate the line. Send me your WhatsApp and your regular SMS messages. We will be going to Kumasi live as well to monitor what's happening. I think it's just coming up to 8 a.m. We want to see when banking hours are open, or when it's time for people to do business in the bank. We want to see what will happen. But for now, Sabute, our colleague, just reported a while ago that the ATMs in some of the branches in Accra are not active. Dr. Lord Mensah told us that is to be expected, at least for a while. Elvis, you know there are many banks to come. Dr. Lord Mensah says 7.
I said, based on the stress test that was done when we went into the IMF, there are issues with some of the banks in terms of their adequate capital ratios. And that's why Bank of Ghana is saying that every bank, once you are a commercial bank, your capitalization now should go to 400 million Ghana cedis. Those that can't meet it, you either come down to a lower level to do something else in the financial sector, or you merge. And that is the policy the current administration of the central bank is pursuing. When that capitalization is done, what it's going to do is, if you can't meet the capitalization, you either merge or you are taken over by another bank or something. So the Bank of Ghana has given every bank in Ghana up to the end of June to bring their proposals, especially those that do not have that amount of money, to tell Bank of Ghana how they intend to raise that money before 31st December 2018. If they look at the plan and it's feasible, they allow you to implement it, so that by the 31st December 2018, you should be able to have a capitalization of 400 million Ghana cedis. If you are unable to do it, then it means you are either going to be taken over by another bank, you do mergers or whatever. So this one is not anything that those in the financial sector do not know. They know, but as I said, they also understand the management of information. So they will not put out the name of the bank. As Dr. Lord Mensah has told you, even though he said the banks, he will not mention the names, because he understands that the very moment you mention the name of a bank, you could create a lot of problems. Yeah. So if you see police officers at Unibank branches this morning, don't be surprised, because the news is out. And it is possible that there will be a panic reaction. If there is, there should be security to control situations. So if you go to any Unibank branch and there's security, do not be worried. The bank is still going to do normal banking, is still going to be there and work. After 6 months that KPMG will publish its report to show that, okay, this is the actual state of the bank. We think that if this is done, it could be saved. Or we think that with the current situation, the bank can't be saved and therefore should be liquid. Whatever that will happen will determine on the probe to be undertaken by KPMG. That is why this morning it will take some time before transactions will take place, because KPMG will need to verify with the previous administration what they are taking over, to know that this is the actual thing we are taking over. Before they also commence operations, they know where they are starting from and manage it. And then they do their investigations into the books of Unibank to find out the actual state of it, because the Bank of Ghana is claiming that they had misreported certain data. So to verify whether the data that the Bank of Ghana claims had been misreported is true or not, all this will be done by KPMG. So within 6 months, KPMG is able to produce a report that is the actual state of the bank. And then based on the actual state of the bank, decisions will be taken as to what the way forward should be. So going to any Unibank branch this morning and seeing police or something over there, it's not unusual. It's just to make sure that there is calm. Yeah. Because during some of this, if there's any panic, some deviants will also take part and go and destroy properties and all that. Yeah. So it's important for police and security to be at Unibank branches this morning, because you cannot determine or anticipate people's behavior when such news come up. So nobody should be worried about seeing security around Unibank branches. It is for the safety of all of us as a country and those who have deposits there. So people should not panic that they go to Unibank branches and they see security over there. It is for various reasons, including the safety of even Unibank depositors who may go there this morning, and probably if in a particular branch there's a panic and people rush there and there's no police, you can imagine what will happen. So this thing shouldn't be a surprise to us. But for the banking sector, as the government is trying to do a national development with a huge capitalization so that they can do big ticket transactions and all that, this is what it is, definitely. But for me, my problem is, I just want the local banks that we have, those that know, they know from their books that they may not be able to meet that capitalization. I think it's time they begin to talk to the central bank and say, look, probably 3-4 local banks, we want to merge and become one brand. But it's like, normally Ghana, when people own business, they still want their names and their business to remain. So if we go and merge and a different name will come, the brand I've built all these years is gone and all that. So people want to stick to their brands and what they've said about. If you are a business person, as it is said, it is better to be a 10% shareholder in a $100 million business than to be the 100% shareholder in a $1 million or $10 million business. Yeah. Because a $100 million business that is thriving will definitely yield bigger profits to you than you owning the whole business, which will not give you any profit or something small. True. So for me, I think that so long as we think the financial sector has to be strong and the government has made it clear its intentions, how it is said to do, for me, my appeal to the local business people in the banking sector is to look at the possibility of, okay, we can't meet it, but we don't want our local brands all also to vanish because we want to build a stronger banking sector. So why can't we see, if we have all the local banks in Ghana, even merging to become 3 major banks, 3 main Ghanaian banks in the system.
That will be helpful.
That would be helpful. Because as I said, you cannot build your economy around foreigners. And Ken Ofureta has said when he read his budget that he will not want to work so hard to build an economy and wake up one day to realize that that economy is owned by foreigners. And that struck me, and I think that every Ghanaian who is into business should have that at the back of his mind, that we cannot build our country, and the building we have done is now owned by foreigners. It must be largely owned by Ghanaians. That is what is important.
Let's hear from some of the people watching and sending us messages. We'll also hear in a bit from the Bankers Association. The president, Al-Hassan Andani, has been speaking about this, latest takeover. We'll hear from him in a bit. But this one says, I used Unibank MasterCard last night. I tried using the Unibank ATM in Takrady. It worked. I tried Cowbank ATM and First Atlantic Bank. It didn't go through. So that's somebody sharing his or her experience with us. We would love to hear from you as we have this conversation. This one says, what was Bank of Ghana doing all these years that the bank was operating knowing that they hadn't complied with the regulatory requirements? They must set up. Here, please include your name so we know exactly who is sending us what message. Andy says, is this Ghana beyond aid under President Akufo-Addo? God protect us. Andy from Asing Fusu, and I'm not sure what this comment exactly is in connection with, if it has to do with what we are discussing or something else. Irene says, oh, there's no day I don't watch AM show because of you too. Well, we thank you for watching the show. You always cut in. Hey, okay, so you want me to allow Roland to express himself. Irene, I hear you. So let's go and listen to the president of the Ghana Bankers Association, Al-Hassan Andani.
No, I think let's draw a line between the bank and the regulator, and before we start to call things indigenous. For me, the confidence our clients should have is that the regulator and most of the customers of Unibank have on a daily basis gone to transact business without really noticing anything. So the fact that the regulator has preemptively stepped in should give confidence to the general banking customers that, their regulator is up and alert and protecting their interests. The issue around indigenous banks, then let's handle this. There are principles and standards that every bank has to abide by or conduct its business within. And whether it's whoever owns it must conduct its banking business along those agreed principles and conduct.
Al-Hassan Andani there commending the central bank for stepping in to prevent the eventual collapse of Unibank. So there you have it, the various angles. We've got to wrap up on this. And this is AM Business on the AM show because it's a Wednesday. But we'll also be talking about, is there a military base or not? We'll look at what the defense minister sent to Parliament yesterday. That's also generating a lot of conversations, after which we will open the phone lines and let you have your say. Yeah. So the Bankers Association, obviously, Elvis, happy about this development, and Hassan Andani talking there, and they don't have any problems at all.
And as I said earlier, there could be very serious implications for the banking sector if the Bank of Ghana sits down till the bank collapses. And that's, I give you the example of the DKM issue. And now if you talk to savings and loans companies, they tell you directly, look, because of the issues with DKM, some other micro finance companies, now they have realized that their deposit levels are going down because people are losing that confidence. Because the banking sector or the financial sector actually thrives on confidence. Once people trust the information in the system, they would work with you. But the moment there's reason for them to doubt what is happening, then people are afraid to send their money. This is a country where the savings rate is very low in a country. And we are trying to encourage people to save. So if there should be an information that a whole bank like Unibank is allowed to collapse on its own. That will have a serious implication for the entire banking sector and the financial sector. So for the Bank of Ghana step in, as I said, for now, it's not certain what will happen at the end of the day after the administration, because Bank of Ghana is claiming that some data had been misreported. And I also made you aware that Unibank itself, a lot of their debt, if probably government had also paid contractors who are taking loans from Unibank, that we are going to do government contract, and the collateral they gave is the contract that government has awarded them. So there's no fiscal collateral for Unibank to say, I am going to garnish this property to sell, but I gave you the loan because you gave me a government contract you are going to execute. Probably if all those loans had actually been paid to Unibank, including the one I talk about, the BDCs, probably the situation wouldn't have been what it is as we are talking about. So I believe that we should wait till the administration report is out from KPMG. Then we know the actual state of the bank. Then if it can be saved, we all will know. If it cannot be saved, the fact will speak, and then we will know. But I hope and pray, and I'm confident that with the administration, I believe that the brand Unibank should remain in business. That's how I see it, and that is my hope, that it will remain in business.
Yeah.
Well, Elvis Dakun, thank you very much. Great insight and great perspective from you. And as a journalist and news editor, he has great perspectives on many issues. I'm sure that if we were even to ask him about the U.S. military,
will come up tomorrow.
Yes, even about the military
we're talking about that. We're talking about that for a while before he leaves us. But this is a message on this takeover, and then somebody is saying, I wanted you to ask Dr. Lord Mensah if personnel at the top management of Unibank will continue to be at post, continue to receive their salary in full as KPMG takes over the management of the bank. That's a big question. I think what has happened will probably be, we can say, initial findings by the Bank of Ghana, but concrete, firm position would be determined by KPMG. So we can't make any other conclusions apart from what the Bank of Ghana has.
And the top management are only stepping aside for the KPMG to do the investigations. They have not been sacked. The top management of Unibank have not been sacked. They are asked to step aside for KPMG to look into the operations of the bank. Yeah. So they are still staff of the bank. So they should be getting their salary and everything. Somebody
sending me a message with the name of a bank and saying that what has happened to Unibank should happen to them. I don't know on what basis, but you say they are cheating you and they are taking deductions and things like that. I think that we have a very responsive Bank of Ghana. So if you have any reports of a bank cheating you, what do you say, Roland? Report it to the Bank of Ghana.
Yes, you just have to make sure you lodge the right complaints at the right quarters.
And that is very important. A lot of people do not know that whatever problems they have with their bank, they can go to the central bank. There's a place, they even have a call center now that you can call and just report at any time. If it borders on something you suspect is fraud, they'll refer it to the Financial Intelligence Center, which is a branch of the central bank, which investigates all banks in Ghana in terms of their operations. So every Ghanaian should know that there's a place for redress. If your bank, you have any problem with your bank and they are not trying to reason with you, just go to the Bank of Ghana, report your case. They'll take it up for you.